This video will go through expanding single brackets. So remember, when we expand single brackets, we have to multiply everything that is inside the brackets by the outside term. So you can see here I've drawn up, if we do A open brackets B plus C close brackets, when we try to expand that, we can see the red multiplication first. We would do A times B to get AB. And then we do plus A times C because we have to do A multiplied by those two terms that are inside the bracket. So I've got a few examples to go through. The first one, I'm just going to take it step by step. So when we do this, we have to multiply everything inside by the outside term. So we're going to do 3 times x first, and then we do plus 3 times 2. And then we can simplify that. 3 times x is just 3x plus 3 times 2, which is 6. And that's our final answer, and we just leave it like that. Now, the first step, this one that I've just underlined in yellow, once you're confident, you do not need to show that step. But while you're practicing and learning, it's handy to show it. Otherwise, once you're confident, you can do that part in your head. So this next one would be 4 times a. And then this time we're going to put a take sign in the middle because it's 4 times 3, but we're taking that away. So we have 4a take away 12 as our answer there. Again, that first step, once you're confident, isn't necessary. Second lot of examples are when there is a variable as the outside term. So this time we're going to have c times c plus c times 2. Now, remember, when you multiply something by itself, that's the same as saying squared. So 3 times 3 is the same as saying 3 squared. So c times c is the same as saying c squared. Then we have add c times 2. Some people want to write it like this, but that we don't tend to write the letter first. We actually write it as 2c, because remember, c times 2 and 2 times c means the same thing. 3 times 5 is the same as 5 times 3. And then that's our final answer for that one. So example 2b is going to be p times p, take away p times 4. And again, p times p is just p squared. And then we take off 4p. Again, first step is not necessary once you are confident. Example 3, we're stepping it up a bit now. So now we have a letter and a number. So we've got a term at the front that has a coefficient and a variable. And that is now going to multiply by everything in the brackets. So again, we do 2a times 3 plus 2a times 4a. And then 2a times 3, well, that's just 2 times 3, which is 6, and then we put the a on the end. And then we've got 2 times 4, which is 8, and a times a, just like in this previous example, a times a gives us a squared. So now I'm going to do this one in one step. I'm going to do it by saying it in my head. 2x times 5 is 10x. Take away 2x times 3x, which is 2 times 3, which is 6, and x times x, which is x squared. See how I just talked it through in my head rather than having to write it down? The next one gets a little bit trickier because we're introducing negatives now. So again, I'm going to go back to doing negative 3 times x plus negative 3 times 2. Because now you'll see negative 3 times x is just negative 3x. But when we have negative 3 times 2, we get add on negative 6. And we should all know that when we have a plus and a take next to each other, it just becomes a take. So you can see you could go from the question straight to the answer. If you see there's a negative at the front and then a plus sign in the middle, then it means that the answer will be take, because you know multiplying a negative by a positive number, which is what we're doing here, this 2 is positive, it gives us a negative answer, which is where this -6 comes from. Then, if we do example 4b here, we're going to have -2x, we know that, because it's -2 times x. But now we look at this, we've got -2, and just like in the first example, I said here was +2. What we're going to look at now is the fact that the 5 is actually -5. So what we can say is -2 times x gives us -2x, and then -2 times -5 gives us +10. And that's how we do that one. I will just do one more of those for you. So if we've got -3x times x take 7. So if we do this one, we'll have -3x times x gives us -3x squared, because we're doing x times x. And then we're saying to ourselves -3x times -7. So -3x times -7 is plus 21x. All right, if I step that out for you just so you can see why, we would have -3x times x take -3 times 7, and you can see that becomes -3x squared. And then here we've got take away -21. And you should know by now that if we've got two take signs next to each other, that becomes a plus, which is where we get -3x squared plus 21x from. Hopefully this helps you with expanding single brackets.